All right. Hi. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. I am so excited that we are starting this in our group and that we're going to start these conversations. Um, this is something that I think has been forming and showing up for a while. Thank you to everybody that was in the What Would You Like to Add to Your Family group that now has hopefully joined us here in the Soaring Beyond Definition group. The reason why I started to put these together is because that's really how I function, like as a person, but also how I do business. I don't have energy work and body awareness and communication with energy in one part, and then all the stuff I do with kids with language and speech and feeding and behavior and learning in another place. It's all together. It's all there's no separation behind it. And so I get that, over the next week or so, as everyone that would like to continue to play with me comes into our Soaring Beyond Definition group from the other group, the What Would You Like to Add to Your Family group, I get that this is going to add a lot more juice, a lot more yum, a lot more awareness to all of us, and for where we are soaring with our families, where we are bringing everybody along, where everyone's really reaching and expanding and moving toward what they would really like, each member of your family, because I work with the whole family. Even when I used to be hired for one kiddo in a home, I would say hi to everybody. I would ask everybody what their awareness was about whatever situation was going on. And I would incorporate and consider the strengths of everybody in the family as I was creating like treatment plans and action plans. And if you're here, go ahead and say hi. I'd love to know that you're listening. But one of the things that I'm curious about for each of you is, one, who is in your family? Who do you consider family? And maybe it's, a blended family. Maybe it's a more traditional family. Maybe it's a chosen family that maybe we have some polycules here. All of the people that you consider family, go ahead and put it in the chat. And I'm going to put the question here. Let's acknowledge that. And then the other piece I'd love to start playing with as we're doing our Family Fridays moving forward is, where is it where your family isn't soaring, where there are some things going on? Hi, Maggie, where you're really struggling to make sure that everybody's feeling acknowledged and seen, nurtured in your family. Where are those communication breakdowns? And if you'd like tools about that, go ahead and let's ask for it. This is this is our first call, so that I kind of describe to you what we're about, what we're going to be doing on these Family Fridays, and also what you'd like to get from these Family Fridays. So I'll be doing these videos every Friday for the most part. Maybe I'll take a vacation every once in a while, but I'll let you know ahead of time. And really let me know what you'd like to get, because I love working with families. I love working with children. If for those of you that work with children as well, and work with families as well, and you have like clients or you have students, if you're working with different institutions and schools, different early childhood centers. I worked in so many different settings, working with speech and language pathologists like myself, occupational therapists, social workers, nurses, gosh, physical therapists, kinesiologists, other feeding therapists. I'm also a feeding therapist. So where are the settings that you're working in where maybe you're having an impact on families? I'm putting that in the chat too. And I'm actually going to tweak it. What settings are you working in? And what settings are you playing in where you are having an impact on families? Because I have a lot of people that are like, I don't have any kids. This doesn't really affect me. This isn't really something that's going to be a value. Like, I don't really get how I can, contribute to the kids of the world. I like kids. I don't hate them, but like, I'm just doing my thing. I got go to work, I have my friends, I'm dating. And so how does that work? Well, what's great about how I see kids and families is even if you're not their biological parent, even if you're not their caregiver or guardian, you are so contributing to their lives with our choices and with how you interact with them. And those, it could be those moments at the grocery store, it can be those moments at the playground. And I talk a lot with the men in my life, these lovely, caring, beautiful men who would like to be mentors, who would like to engage with kids in powerful, dynamic, and empowering ways. And yet there's so much stigma and so much worry that kind of stops them from engaging with kids as much as they would like to sometimes, unless they have their cousins with them or their nephews or their own kids, because of being worried that they're going to be seen as like, you know, molesters or pedophiles or something like that, which is unfortunate because there's way more men that are not that than those that are. And yet a lot of the ones that are very kind and that's not a consideration of their world, they're holding back. And I would love to provide some tools and avenues for how to engage. And also for all of us who do have kids or who are caring for kids to not immediately see a guy and think that about them and actually ask questions and we tap into our awareness about what's really there and be willing to receive more. So it takes off a lot less of pressure on each of us in all the different ways. I mean, there's just so much pressure we're putting on ourselves. And if I find that when it comes to kids and families, that's one of the words that comes up a lot: pressure and expectations. Whoa. Oh my gosh. Like, and sometimes we put pressure on ourselves based on expectations that have been explicitly said and explicitly projected on us. And sometimes we're putting pressure on ourselves based on what we're assuming are the expectations that the family members have about us that maybe aren't even there. Maybe we're basing it on past experiences or other things. And sometimes we are putting all this pressure on ourselves from like internal things that maybe we don't even have words for yet, but there's this like ugh in our world. And so I'd love to talk about that and address that with you guys if you'd like. A lovely comment. Hi, Angela. Good morning. The biggest thing is miscommunication. If tone gets changed slightly, the person hears yelling and screaming, yet there's absolutely none of that, or they will make conclusions and assumptions that are not true. And it's frustrating. Yes. Wow. It's funny because one of my groups that I'm in, we're having a conversation about tone verbally, and then also like all the different interpretations of text, like capitalization in text, with punctuation at the end in text, like what that means. Like for some people, it's like, you know, punctuation, if you have a period when you're texting someone, that's like, there's a finality to it. And other people are like, it's just a period. It's not even that big of a deal. And then other people are like, I only put capitalization when I'm emphasizing that word. It doesn't mean I'm yelling. And other people are like, if I see caps, I feel like someone's yelling at me. So it's interesting how you mentioned this. And yes, we can totally talk about tone and how to kind of perceive the difference. And sometimes with us, we start again thinking that a certain tone, like we already are going like 10 steps beyond it. Maybe from, you know, it's triggering us, it's pushing some kind of button. Maybe we're already kind of feeling insecure or worried. Maybe our needs aren't being met. And then all of a sudden we're putting the connotation on a tone that may or may not be there. But sometimes it is. Sometimes it is there and we know something, even if there's no like evidence that anyone else is willing to acknowledge. But if we are willing to acknowledge it, that's a great start. And that is totally valid. Hi, Christina. Good morning. Generational pressure. Yes. Tell me more about that. I think I know what you mean, but I'd love to get a little bit more information about what you mean by generational pressure. Definitely experienced that. A lot of the homes I've gone into to address family concerns and to provide family and child coaching in, are multi-generational homes. So you have grandma with maybe the parents, one or two of the parents, and then you have the grandkids. Maybe there's some cousins, maybe there's aunts and uncles that are visiting or that are also living there. You know, there'll be some homes that I've been in where there are multiple families that are living, cohabitating in that home as well. I would just like count the toothbrushes, you know, to see how many people actually live there, even if maybe when I went in for therapy to give therapy to the kiddos, only a few of them were there. And then maybe everyone else was coming back from work in the evenings when I wasn't there. And there are a lot of considerations with that. So generational, cohabitating, how to blend different, not just communication styles, not just love languages, even though those are definitely play a factor with families, but also family styles. Like when you have somebody that had a certain childhood and then they're creating a family with you now, given their childhood, we're blending family styles, family experiences. And maybe that past childhood experience isn't even something that that person even wants to create right now, but the residual energy of that is there still. It's still affecting them. And unless it's addressed proactively and with kindness, we can actually soar beyond it. So the other thing I'd love to do with these calls on Fridays is to see where we could soar beyond anywhere that we're using our family experiences, past, present experiences with families to define ourselves, to put us in a box in any way. And yes, I'm going to be including, you know, traditional evidence-based practices and tools and strategies from grad school and all the research I've done as a speech language pathologist, as a learning behavioral specialist and feeding therapist. And I'm also going to be including this weird, wacky, different this wacky, different stuff, this energy work stuff that we already been playing with Soaring Beyond Definition. And if you haven't already checked out the video that I did last week on the inner child and the element of living, the archetype of living and dying of the inner child, please do, because it informs what we'll be talking about and on these Family Fridays very much so, and how I address the inner child in every single person in the family, be it the children that are still little bodies and the adults that maybe have disconnected from their inner child, and how that's affecting how they're interacting with their kids, how they're interacting with themselves, if they're choosing self-care or not. We're going to be playing into that. Hi, Sebastian, honey. I hope your eyesight is all better now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for clarifying that, Christina. Generational trauma from the men in the family and then the younger men in the generation and held under that pressure, and looked at more with a keen eye and not allow them to be who they will be, and not held to the past bad behaviors of the other men or women. Yes, so this is, if I'm hearing you correctly, and please correct me if I'm not mistaken, like how other people in your family, let's say if they're the men in the family, they've acted a certain way and then it's projected upon the other men in your family, the younger ones. And that's definitely been relevant in my family. You know, we have conversations, and I'm going to tag my brother on this as well. Hi, Shani. I'm going to tag him on here, and my sister, they're in our group, and they can let me know kind of what their take is on it, and they can correct me if I'm mistaken. My cousin's here, and this is definitely something that has shown up with our family. But one of the things with this is that there's a lot of past behaviors that, you know, my uncles and my grandparents and the generation of my grandparents, the men in those families, they chose for various reasons. And I'm gonna let them see what they think. And then that was almost this projected expectation for the younger men, either that they was assumed that they were going to do the same thing, or they had to constantly prove that they were not like that they were going to choose something different. And I hear that. And then also the women, how they started interacting, not just with the men in the family, but with other men, was influenced greatly by the choices generationally of the men in my family. And so then it started affecting generationally how the women started behaving. Maybe they were always doing everything and assuming that they couldn't rely on the men and step up, that the men were going to do whatever they wanted and the women had to like control everything. And then how did that control look like? So yes, thank you for bringing that in. So let's talk about that. Let's actually address that in the coming calls as well. Thank you. Okay, great. Hugs and kisses to you, Sebastian. Thanks. And yeah, let me know what you think when you come back and catch it later. Um, and then lastly, like, I'd love to just remind everyone and to start off by saying that we were always aware. We were always aware as kids, and no one told us. It was not something that was discussed. What do I mean by that? We were aware of what was going on in everybody's worlds, the stress, the anxiety, the pressure, the expectations. We were always aware of the energy there. We were aware of the joyful moments. We were aware of maybe when people were experiencing body shifts, okay, and we're aware of people's bodies and when they're transitioning in different ways in their lives. We might not have had words for it. Maybe it was even when we were nonverbal still, before we were two. Maybe it was when we were in the womb and we were picking up on things, okay? And we talk about this a little bit in that inner child video. So I'm gonna pop it in into this discussion as well for y'all, because I think that it would contribute greatly to what we're talking about. I'm gonna take a moment and put the link to it. And if you're catching this on any other platform and you'd like the link to this discussion, just let me know. Definitely want to make sure that you have this in your repertoire, this information. It's super key to so much stuff. Sorry, here's the thing. When many of us are functioning from the constraints and pressures and expectations of family, we often don't choose what's actually going to work for us and don't choose what's going to work for our current families. We're still running an old recording. We're still running an old irrelevant program, some schematics that are just like, this isn't going to work. And so if we're willing to consider something else, then we can actually start having something greater show up. And I'd love to contribute to that being the case for you, in your family, with your family, beyond your family. Okay, so let me know. This is just a heads up. Hey, we're doing this. Hey, we're starting this up. We're going to be playing on these Fridays. Bookmark this, set the alarms. It'll be 9 a.m. Eastern, New York time, and that will usually make it, and depending on when the time differences are changing, it'll be 5 o'clock in the UK, sorry, 2 p.m. 2 p.m. in the afternoon in the UK, 3 p.m. in Paris and Rome, and then that would make it like 5 p.m. in Saudi Arabia, so forth and so on. So yeah, let's play together. Let's see what we can create with our families and for our families together. And thank you so much for being here and being willing to have these discussions and being willing to start looking at where you've already been a gift to your family and to other people's families. I think that these discussions are going to contribute to a lot of people, and it already has. And so thank you for your vulnerability, for your comments and questions, and share this video with anybody that you'd like. Since we're a private group, they won't see the video unless you add them to the group. But I think I'm going to at least have this video be on YouTube as well. So hi to my YouTube fans and my YouTube audience. But then the rest of the videos are going to be in this private group moving forward, okay? Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are.